She's like, Dad, you need a red velvet cake for a period party because you put the name of your period on the cake. I'm like, who names their period?
I truly didn't realize how hard it'd be to take care of little ones, really. Because, you know, when people are like, what's motherhood like? I'm just like, I feel like a shoe caught in a dryer. You know, I'm just like... I'm so tired. And these little babies were born in January in the dead of winter, and they were premature, 4 and 5 pounds, so we couldn't leave them for a while. And we would just like sit on the couch and rock them and look at each other, trying not to fall asleep. And like after a while, I feel like I just turned into a scene from The Hateful Eight. I was just looking at my husband rocking that baby. And I was like, who gonna go for provisions?
I'm at home, phone rings, it's a school nurse. She goes, I have Isla in the office. Is there a parent at home? I was like, I'll do. Gives the phone to Isla, her first words, I tried to stop it, Dad. I go, stop what? She goes, I got my period. I'm like, bitch, you promised. I'm like, you called the wrong number, dickhead, call your mom. She's like, Dad, I need you right now. Immediately as a parent, I'm melting down. So I'm like, she's freaking out at school. She's by herself. She's going through what Georgia went through. This isn't my skill set. But I got this. I go, okay, baby. All right, okay. How'd you get it? She was like, Dad, I was playing kickball. Immediately, I'm like, oh, poor kid probably thought she blew out her pussy. Just... oh, shit. Oh, I'm out, coach. I'm out. Yeah. I tore my twat. It's bad. I blew out my cooch, coach. I'm gonna have to sit this one out. Pinch runner, pinch runner. Now I'm spiraling. I'm like, all right, what do you need from me? New pants, new panties, new socks? Did it get in your socks? A bucket, some towels, garlic. We're gonna keep the vampires away from you. She's like, Dad, I'm fine. Mom gave me a go bag. I go, okay, then what are you calling me for? She goes, I need you to go to the store and get supplies. I'm like, how bad is this period? She's like, no, Dad, I'm throwing myself a period party tonight. I'm like, I'm sorry, what did you just say? She's like, all the girls are doing it, Dad. I need you to go to the store and get supplies. Get a red velvet cake. I'm like, I go, baby, I don't think I can eat a red velvet cake, knowing what it symbolizes. She's like, Dad, you need a red velvet cake for a period party because you put the name of your period on the cake. I'm like, who names their period? She's like, Georgia named hers after the girl from Progressive Auto Insurance. She's like, Dad, please, I need you right now. I have 10 people coming tonight. I go, we have 10 little girls coming to the house? She goes, no, 8 girls, 2 boys. I'm like, who invites boys to a period party? And I hear her sinister little giggle on the phone, and she goes, Dad, that's the fun of it. We don't tell them why they're there. Now I'm like, fuck it, I'm in. I have never had more fun at a party in my entire life. Planning, hosting, and attending a period party. I dressed all in red like it was Chinese New Year's. Drinking Pinot Noir. I made pasta with chunky marinara sauce. And I giggled the whole night with all these little girls at these 2 boys, Max and Carter, right? Faces covered in red cake. Like it's their honeymoon, and they're like, fuck it, I'll eat it anyway. The whole party, these 2 boys are looking at the cake going, who the hell's Jason? My daughter, Isla Kreischer, named her period Jason because she got it on Friday the 13th. I pray this child doesn't find marijuana.
I've wanted to be a parent for a very long time, and it is such a tremendous experience. And I feel like Stephanie and I are doing a great job. I really do. And I do, but I also feel like it would be reasonable if somebody had called Child Protective Services a couple of times. A couple of times, you know, it happens. You have a rough day or a weird day. No, when Max and Finn were just a couple of months old, we were so amused because people would come over to meet the babies, and what we would do is we'd prop them up with our hands underneath their armpits, and then we'd just say, yep, they're pretty much walking, and then we'd let go, and then their little noodle legs would buckle, and then we'd catch them half an inch before they hit the ground. Oh, is that a treat? If you have a baby, I highly recommend trying this out. If you don't have a baby but know someone with a baby, ask to borrow the baby. Nobody will regret this. The baby's clueless, just like, meh. They're just a blob. And you catch it. That's the key. You have to catch them. You can't just let the little blobs fall, because that's when there's true trouble. Well, with all of the exhaustion and busy lives, it's hard to keep up with the house in the way that we did before. And I was sitting on the couch, and Max toddled over to me and handed me a gigantic, gross ball of cat hair and lint. And the thing is at their age, they put everything in their mouths, but he even knew, you have to get this out of my reach. Me and my brother here, we need you to remove this. And I just looked, I was like, oh, this is icky. This is so gross, yes. And I dropped it behind the couch. We got Max and Finn, these little, we call them their cars. And these little things they sit in, there's 4 tiny wheels underneath them and a plastic tray in front of them. And I somehow figured out that Finn loves when I kick his little car and he shoots across the room at a high speed. And then he scoots back towards me, and then I kick him again. Here's the problem. The entire front of our house is just all windows. And there's a sidewalk that runs along our house, and the neighbors were walking by. And all they saw was me kicking, and this tiny little baby head flying to the back of the house at a very high speed, and then just scooting back towards me and then kicking again. And at that point, I just thought, okay, I have to close these curtains. But then we just kept making memories.
I have a 3-year-old, because I'm a fucking idiot. Did not think that one through. I didn't. I thought it in. I didn't think it through. She's super cute. We also have a 7-year-old, my wife and I, and she's a little tough on the 7-year-old. When she had to go through the potty training, she was a little tough. She was very, we're going to hold her legs down on the toilet. We hold her down. We close the door. That she won't be able to get out. She'll know this is the potty. It's one day of screaming, and that's it. We hold her little legs there. They put on your earplugs, whatever the fuck you need to do. And anyway, we're screaming, and it was awful. But she was right. It was one day, you know. But I said, for the new baby, for the accident, let's let the accident decide when she's ready. Maybe a little less cruel this time. Maybe. So we let her decide when it was ready. And she's 3 years old, and She hasn't decided she's ready. She hasn't. She said to me the other day, Papi, cambio me, por favor. I was like, "Kay, what? Papi, change me, please, Daddy." It's like, "Well, Madeline, you know, if you're smart enough to tell me in 2 different fucking languages, you're smart enough to hop your little culo up on that toilet right there. Do your business up there, okay? All right? You know, your diapers are size 6. 6. Yeah. They don't make 7. They don't. You know why? You're supposed to have this shit figured out by now. Yeah. I don't know they don't make them bigger. I don't know what to tell you. If you don't figure this out soon, you're gonna have to borrow one from Grandma. That's all I have for you.
I pull up in Atlanta and my niece called me. She was like, "Auntie, I need a favor." I'm like, "What do you want?" She said, "My sister is homeless and she got 4 kids. One of the babies are 2 weeks old. Can they please come live with you? I know you just built the big ass house in Indiana." And I said, "Fuck no, bitch. Them crack babies ain't coming to my house and right on my new walls." My son was in the car with me. He's like, "Mama, you should help her out." I'm like, "Why?" He said, "Because when you was down and out, somebody helped you out. Do you remember the time my daddy shot you in the back of the head, drug you behind that truck, and gave you them STDs?" I'm like, "Damn, nigga, you remember all that shit?" Let's go get the crack babies and their mama. I go over and I pick up my niece and I take her back to my husband with the 4 kids. I'm like, "Look, the crack babies and their mama coming to live with us." On the way home from Atlanta to Indiana, y'all, my chest started hurting really bad. So I tell my husband, "Pull the fuck over, my chest hurt. I'm having a heart attack." He was like, "Calm down, your ass ain't having no heart attack." He said, "What you having is an anxiety attack." I'm like, "What the fuck make you think I'm having that?" He was like, "Look in the back seat." You just picked up 5 niggas and you don't know how you gonna feed them. I get my niece back to Indiana, y'all. I help her get off drugs. I co-sign for a car, a job, apartment, every fucking thing. 2 years in, this bitch run off and leave me with these 4 crack babies. Don't just a crackhead story. It's a good ending. Now I'm raising a 5 or 7. I don't know how old these motherfuckers is. They just still at my fucking house. And let me just say this to y'all. This is not my first set of crack babies I've raised. This is my 3rd fucking set. I raised my sister kids, my sister-in-law kids, now I got my niece kids. I had to go talk with God. I said, "Look, God, I'm done being your crack baby keeper. You gotta find somebody else for this shit. I'm too old." Because I don't know if y'all know anything about crack babies, but these new crack babies ain't nothing like these fucking 90s crack babies. These new motherfuckers come with technology. I got a 5-year-old running around my house. "Where my iPad at?" I'm like, "How the fuck you can work an iPad but you shit on yourself?" Can you Google how to shit in the toilet?